we're talking the same, I would say, codes. So cities, we're all about cities, and where the umbrella here was about new diplomacy, I think cities are doing it in their own specific way. I define myself as a city maker, not a shoemaker, not a filmmaker, but a city maker, because in cities there's new profession that is made by us civil servants, clerks, if you may. We have to find a new way to take off red tapes and make red carpets. Why, what, where? Let's dive into that. So I just connected to you with Saskin Sassen, which is, I should have actually made another slide before that and put Jane Jacobs, because she's the how would I say, the Torah for all of us. And I actually know that it's just what she managed was outside here. For me, cities are playgrounds. We have to really feel at home around the city. And Saskia Sassen coined the term global cities, which is bringing the business center as part of that city. And you can't do anything in a city if you don't have the business core as a leading city with an international business center and direct influence on global affairs. That means that when you close your eyes, you actually see the four major cities, New York, Tokyo, London, and Paris. When one of them goes to sleep, the other one wakes up. And then the stock exchange can go and work all over. That means the business center moves around and the business doesn't go to sleep at all. But when we made this slide with the vision of one of the world's 20 leading global cities for Tel Aviv, this was somewhere between a joke and a real good wish. 10 years ago, we never thought that Tel Aviv could be one of those leading cities. Of course, not tier 1, but tier 2. But today, we are perceived as so. And this is when we're talking about branding, about positioning, about advertising. Matt Scheckner after me is going to refer to things with the advertising arena. It's about the perception. And Tel Aviv today is perceived as one. Although we are only 400,000 residents, we have 1 million commuters. Our transportation system is not the best. Lots of things can be improved, but still, because of the ecosystem and the innovation, we are perceived as one of the leading cities. But when we did that, we had to ask ourselves, what is that exactly sharp DNA of the city? Now, it sounds like, easy question, right? We all know it. What is the DNA of Tel Aviv? What is that unique selling point of the city? Well, I must share with you, although the mayor at the time was already 10 years in office, and I was just after 3 years of doing the centennial year, we did not know the right answer. It takes sometimes, even for ourselves, I'm not sure everyone that sits here in this room is really sure to know exactly what is his DNA and what is his unique selling point. So just think of finding that for a city. It's not that easy. So it took us 3 years to define that point on the same place where the 66 families that initiated Tel Aviv just 110 years ago. In that same place, when you come to Rothschild Boulevard and you knock on every door, you'll actually see and feel the ecosystem, the startups, whoever knows Billgard, Google, Waze, they all started there and they're still there. Now, why am I pointing that out about that DNA? Because, okay, we know that the startup city is, in a way, our identity. But at the same time, we have Jaffa for 3,000 years. It's Tel Aviv's old city. And we have the White City as the largest Bauhaus. Why? I'm pointing out all these identities because at the end of the day, you have to take all these stories and combine them into one. We have 1/3 of the residents between the age of 18 and 35. How do you take this young, wild, and free atmosphere and vibe and this beautiful beach? By the way, this picture is not a camouflage. This is the real Manta Ray atmosphere. It is that one woman feels to be very covered and one to be very transparent, and this is part of our story, of our non-stop story. So when you come into Tel Aviv, or when you come into Israel, although you land in Ben Gurion International Airport, what you have on your boarding pass is TLV. How are we as a city using that asset to improve and to attract the creative class. Now, another name to add after Jane Jacobs and after Professor Saskia Sasson is Professor Richard Florida, also that he coined the term creative class. You want to attract people to your city. How do you do it? It's not by advertising or by logos and slogans. It's about creating reality that the creative class wants to be part of. Now, when I say a creative class, before, about 50 years ago, if we wanted to create jobs, we would open a factory for something. Today, if we want to create jobs, we just have to give places for people with their laptops to sit in cafe bars and things like that. So that means you have to support 3 T's. The talent, of course, and this is the way the entrance to the city hall looks in Tel Aviv. Technology, for now, it is quite, for all of us, it is taking for granted that we have citywide free Wi-Fi anywhere. So in Tel Aviv, when we did that in 2011, it was quite new. I must tell you that still now, if you go to Australia, if you go to New Zealand, if you go to some other countries which are really developed countries, still Wi-Fi is not everywhere. So if you want technology development, you have to have it really open in the public spaces, and of course tolerance. So these 3 T's: attract young people to cities, to the business center. This is how it looked, how the Google offices looked in the middle of Tel Aviv. So took us a long time to be ranked one of the top global financial centers, but in the beginning we were not even in the rankings. So if you want to promote yourself as a city, one of the major things before anything, ask yourself, which rankings do you want to be in? Now this sounds again like, of course, how come we didn't think about it before? But you can't go up in the rankings if you're not in them. So it took us 3 years to go just into this specific rank. I always, when I go to cities, I say, make sure you're ranked in the issues that you want, whether it's in fashion, in food, in culinary, in innovation, whatever. But be there so people will talk about you. We're lucky to have a very small city, but a very wide ecosystem of startups. We have now 1,300, which is more per capita than any other city in the world except for San Francisco. But what more important is the spillover. What happens with the things that happen with people that are not in the startup but in the exactly in the periphery. Sorry, I didn't find that word. It's all about what I just talked about, city making. What does it mean, city making? Making, we all know, we're all makers. We must give the people in the city to feel that the city is theirs, that this municipality hall is theirs. It's their salon. They can just come in and feel free and put a picture wherever they want. They can put the duck, and this is whoever's been to Tel Aviv before. It's a small community of illustrators where they approached me 10 years ago and said, can we please put the duck on the roof? Now, exactly, what duck, why duck, how come on the roof, how is this connecting to innovation and to startups and to ecosystem and to whatever we just talked about? Well, it is. When a person is creative and when he wants to feel that the city is his or hers or his, whatever, however you refer, we all want to feel that we are part of the city, that it's engaged, that it's part of our identity, and that we can do whatever, not whatever we want, but we can feel that we can do what we like in the city. So approving that little community and sharing 10,000 shekels in the budget so they can put their icon on there, first of all, gave that little community a very good feeling. But the PR that they did for this was much stronger than any PR campaign I would do for Tel Aviv for that year. The 10,000 shekels we invested on that month just gave it back in so many ways. Another little lesson to be learned from cities around the world. In 2009, we went to Vienna to be part of the celebration there of the centennial of Tel Aviv. And we saw that this lady there paid some money to the municipality so she can have a Tel Aviv beach cafe. Now, we asked ourselves, how come she's not doing a Starbucks cafe or Aroma cafe or Vienna cafe? How come Tel Aviv in Vienna? We understood, and this is another lesson to be learned, that the private sector always knows something a little bit better than us in the public sector. That means she already then thought that the brand of Tel Aviv is quite a good one. If she thought that the brand is good, maybe us, the public sector, needs to learn something. And then we initiated Tel Aviv Global, a little agency for the city that started promoting the brand of Tel Aviv. Actually, I was just now in Christchurch half a year ago, before the big tragedy. It's a very interesting city to learn a lot of lessons from it. They had a earthquake 10 years ago, and since they're trying to revolve from that. But a very big and interesting company of backpacking is there. And you know what the name of that backpacking? Maybe you're aware, Nepal. Do you know that company? So again, they're using a brand which is much stronger than the Nepalese think and understand. The same thing here with Tel Aviv. So sometimes they were trying to promote our city. Go and check what is the assets of your city and what you're doing with it. So we try to go and check, and we came here to Michael Bloomberg 2011 and said, okay, we want to promote Tel Aviv, we want to make it global. How do we do it? Again, in the branding book, if you go, and my friend here is a good friend of Professor Robert Govers, and you're all into the branding cities, branding nations. How do we do it? We have to create reality. There's no really shelf product that you can take off and start using it and then promote your city. And at the time, we understood that Tel Aviv is the startup nation. We need to create reality. How do we create that reality? We came here, and Michael Bloomberg, which was the mayor at the time, he said to me and to the mayor, Ron Hulday, guys, you didn't do your homework. Go back home and learn how your ecosystem of startups is so strong. We're talking 2011. The book Startup Nation was already out. And he said, here in New York, we're copying you. So again, you must check what you have. So I said, okay, well, how do I do it? They sent us to a co-working space before 2011. No WeWork, no co-working spaces yet. It was just General Assembly. And I think, again, Simon, you know all the 10 co-working spaces that were at the time. We saw, we ran back home and copied. Not always you need to invent the wheel. You can just take good ideas and adjust them to what you need. So we found a library in Migdal Shalom on 7th floor. It was neglected. Nobody used it anymore. We turned it into a co-working space. And you know what happened? Two things. First of all, half of it we used as co-working space, and it brought great vibe. The little part, we kept it as a regular library. What happened there is it doubled the number of subscribers that were before. So sometimes when you bring new areas, new energies, it is just like an epidemic. It touches, and that innovation is touching everywhere. If you're coming today, it is still after 8 years. It is a co-working space which, as an evolution, learned to be focusing on city solutions. So it took time, but in 2012, we built this strategy. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're going with your methodology and with your strategy wherever you want. We put the free Wi-Fi, as I said. We did startup studies. We reduced city taxes, which was very important. We really made the city welcome for these people. The people were there already, but we took off the red tapes for them. And then 2014, again, the term smart cities that everybody likes to have as a beautiful code around them, it started going all over. What is that term, smart city? Efficient city, lightning, roads, sustainability. For me, a smart city is to learn how to listen to your residents. Now, as Tomer Sharon just talked before, listening doesn't always mean listening with the ears to the voice, but understanding the behavior. What does the citizens need? What are their requirements? How can we make it better through technology, but sometimes through different things? And since we had this digital card where in Tel Aviv we're not that strict about our privacy, so we give our information easier, and then we get pushed also with information for whatever we need. I do urge you to look it up, because it's just a talk by its own, but that digital card really makes the life of the people easier. And then we understood, okay, we need to go another step further. How do we do that? By the innovation program, when we have 60 for innovation mentors throughout the whole municipality of 8,000 people. These young people have every year making up new decisions, new ideas that they are wrapping up from wherever they can find it. When Paris was still with us, he used to come and give the big support and backers to invent new ideas. Not all the ideas were always so new. Like Tell and Take, Israel's first library of things. It is not so brilliant. It is just like having a library of things to share, but it gives the atmosphere and the energy of changing things, of moving out of the box, of not saying no but saying yes. And this opens all this engagement of the community and the workers together. So today we have 3 different tools: the Digitel, the Digitaf for Tel Aviv. For other cities it's different, but for Tel Aviv, 1/3 of our residents we talked are young, and they have kids. Every year we open 40 kindergartens. So the mothers of those youngsters, they want to know where to register, how do they need to go to sleep, what do they need to eat, how can they meet with other kids around. The issue of loneliness is so strong in cities. And once you can solve it through kids, through dogs, you know, 1/5 of the people have dogs. Now, some of the people, dogs is the most important for them. You'll maybe laugh, but if for them it's the most important, how to take in the city, how to take the dog down and up, it's an issue. You know, we think that big innovation issues are things that everybody's on. Sometimes it's also this. Yesterday, well, I won't go into this because some people will feel distracted by that. Digital engagement and community. We have the issue of asylum seekers. All global cities have this issue because when a city is strong, asylum seekers are attracted there. When they're attracted, because over there they can get work, food. This is where their chance to promote in life. Us as the city managers, they are on our responsibility. We can't just think that they'll manage. They need our help and they need our tolerance. So in Tel Aviv, once we put that Wi-Fi in that area, they could really use that energy in order to learn and to promote. Crowdfunding is another tool that can be used for cities. This is a little example of a Lego building that we did to crowdfund a project for kids. But sometimes I also, if in Spain, they made lights for a specific road. The municipality decided that it's not putting lights on that road because it was at the end of the neighborhood and it's not needed. But that street, that specific street with the 50 houses there, they really wanted the light there. So what they did is they crowdfunded the lights for their street. They approached the municipality and they got the matching for that. This, for me, is a smart city because the residents know what they want, and we approach them with a solution. So key points just to wrap up this part of talk. A global city is a city that has a DNA with urban identity. You have to make sure you know exactly how you want to sell your city or promote your city or get it forward. Placemaking, the talks of Jane Jacobs, how are you making the place available for everyone, accessible for everyone? I really love the idea when Tomer Sharon showed when you have to walk on those red taps for blind, but it is also accessible for others. So think all the time how you can be accessible for others. Collaboration, again, I saw Simon's slides. It looks odd. Oh, everybody talks about collaboration. It doesn't work without it. The public-private sector, they have to match. Now, these talks, I even bore myself a little bit by just saying that, but it doesn't work without collaborations. How do we do those collaborations? Sometimes there's a traditional way of raising money through philanthropy, but sometimes we can just do it through a public-private partnership. For instance, we just now started building a new building in Tel Aviv, and the entrepreneur needs to make a theater in that building, in those 2 floors. Before, if you wanted to build a new theater, you had to go and raise the money from a donor and then build it. Those collaborations are crucial. It doesn't work without them, and it does make a new, I think, horizon for things like that. For Tel Aviv and for 1/3 of the cities in the world, there's a big issue of connecting the sea to the city. Again, the city can make the seashore very clean and very nice, but all the private sector that is selling there, the coffee, the shade, the restaurants, they are part of the private sector. How is the public and private sector combining? This is one issue that we have to take. And the last thing, removing red tapes and putting red carpets. Us as, you know what I'm talking about. Us as civil servants or as public sector, we're very much used to say no. You came in February and you want to do a project. No, we can't do it now because our program for this year is already closed. The budget is already known. Try to vice versa. Try to think how you can say yes and how you can adjust by doing so. I'll give you a little example. I'm here in Israel. It's Pesach in 3 days. And I really like to approve almost any applies that come to me for specific needs from needy families. Now I see that my PA sends, we already said, okay, it's approved, and I see that the PA writes, I need another approval from the social worker. I said, why? Why do we need another approval? Is it a law? Is it a... We don't even see, but we put more and more red tapes, whether it's for our kids, whether it's for ourselves, whether it's for our colleagues. So please, next time that you say no, try to remind what I just said. Stop a minute and say, well, maybe I can go vice versa and say yes. If we take all these things that I just mentioned into consideration, I think we're all part of this new nation of city makers. City makers are these people that are us, in a way, or whoever is here and is dealing with cities, that wants to improve cities, that want to make our reality there better. The branding, in a way, is just the umbrella to brand a city. And what I did in the last 10, 12 years was create reality. Of course, I didn't create it by myself. I was just lucky enough to be in the right place. You always create it with a team. You create it with a team of the municipality. You create it with a team of the private sector, with the tourism, with the restaurants, with the, you create jobs. You work with everyone. But the bottom line, when the city is better, when you brand Tel Aviv as the non-stop city and you make sure that the life and that the day-by-day life that you go is 24/7 open. The restaurants are open. When you go on Rothschild Boulevard and you feel safe, it's not that you have to open the city for you. The lights are on, the music is on, the restaurant is open. This is branding. City making is making reality, making sure that your people are feeling really identified with their city, that they are proud Tel Avivians, proud New Yorkers, proud Edinburghs, whatever, from whichever city. This is branding at the end of the day. Thank you very much.